must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
That marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug.
Some think there won't be room for them in jail. We'll make room.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it and didn't inhale.
And one major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Radical Rant.
Welcome back, everyone. 47 and a half after the hour. And today I want you to imagine there's no alcohol. It's not easy if you try. I was motivated for this rant by a few stories. One of which here is this story out of the Denver airport where they're not going to allow this retailer. They're called Highly Legal Colorado, and they market socks and shorts and flip-flops and all sorts of stuff with pot leaves on it and, legal Colorado and so forth. And the Denver airport banned this. Denver airport says, no. We don't want marijuana to be the first thing our visitors experience when they arrive. Not that they'd be experiencing marijuana. They would be experiencing socks and shorts and flip-flops with marijuana. But still, the image of the pot leaf is so disturbing. We just can't have it be seen by people flying into Colorado. We wouldn't want everyone to think that Colorado was a state full of druggies now, would we? But here's the thing. The airport also has a craft brew display. There's an entire walkway in the Denver airport with an exhibit called Colorado on Tap, the State of Brew Culture. It's got pub glasses, beer labels, t-shirts from about 250 different craft brewers from the state of Colorado. And the governor, who, by the way, Governor John Hickenlooper made his fortune in craft brewing, is quoted in the display extolling Colorado as, quote, a mecca for quality beer, end quote. I am so tired of this double standard. It's somehow terribly offensive to the good people of the Denver airport and the tourism bureaus that adults might see promotion of a legal product safer than alcohol. That is just too much to handle. But we have open celebration of alcohol, a drug that is proven to be addictive and dangerous, not only to the user, but to the people around them. This double standard, this second-class citizenship of marijuana has got to come to an end. And I see this in all sorts of areas. And I just, this whole idea of imagine there's no alcohol, just imagine taking the word alcohol out and replacing it with meth whenever someone talks about alcohol. Or imagine just walk down your city streets, turn on your television, and just make a mental note of how much reference to alcohol you will see in any given day. Or for that matter, prescription drugs. It's hard to imagine an American culture without alcohol. Hell, Budweiser gets lauded for it. I mean, there's television shows now to show just the Super Bowl ads that will be on the Super Bowl. Shows dedicated to marketing that are a lot of them marketing drugs. You got Cialis, you got your Viagra, and you got your Budweiser. All drugs, mostly recreational drugs. And yet marijuana, something that's legal in now 4 states, is like homosexuality in the 50s. It's the drug that dare not mention its name. And it's ridiculous. If they could only understand, and this is what's frustrating, because from the point of view of a prohibitionist, they don't want people smoking pot. They think pot smoking in and of itself is bad, and especially because it might entice the children. And what they don't understand is the key to their goal is more pot freedom, not less. The key to their goal is more mainstreaming of marijuana, not less. The more marijuana remains this forbidden fruit, this outlawed drug, this dangerous thing that cannot be seen, the more it retains that forbidden fruit quality, that thing that attracts rebels and outcasts and people that want to show how cool they are. The more marijuana just becomes dull, mainstream, mundane, boring, everyday thing, the less interested kids will be in it. I'm reminded also of, in Portland, we have a festival called the Waterfront Blues Festival. And we have another festival called Portland Hempstock. Now, for the Portland Hempstock, and both festivals, by the way, take place at the same place, the Portland waterfront, in this kind of bowl on the banks of the Willamette River, kind of a half bowl facing the river, kind of a natural amphitheater kind of thing, and takes place at the same location during summertime. In the case of the Portland Hempstock, though, there had to be massive security, bag checks to make sure no one's bringing in pot. No pot. People want, police, not actual police, but monitors, I guess, wandering around the grounds to make sure no one's smoking pot in public. Can't have the sight of pot. People can't have their pot, can't be using their pot. Oh my God, pot is terrible. In a city where 71% of the people voted for its legalization, we just can't have pot be seen by the public. But if you go to that Waterfront Blues Festival, there's one cursory check when you go in. And once you go in, there are numerous beer and wine vendors, craft beers, local wines. And the entire amphitheater grounds is just packed with people. They've got their little, their low back garden chairs and their blankets, and they get some food and make a little picnic out of it. And they got their beer. They're drinking their beer in public, drinking their wine in public. Kids are running around all over the place. In order to get your beer or wine, you got to get ID'd. You get your little wristband, right? So we make sure that you've been ID'd. And nobody bats an eye. Nobody's worried about a message it's sending to the children. Why, if the children see all the adults openly drinking alcohol, they'll think it's okay. That's the kind of logic we get offered with marijuana. Why does it not apply to alcohol? Or, perhaps a better question, why do you not care about sending that message about alcohol? Because apparently we don't. Apparently with alcohol, we can send a message that it is normal, mundane, kind of a celebratory part of life, something that more than half of the people enjoy, something that's not for kids, but something that kids are welcome to do once they become the age where you're allowed to do it. Celebrated in our culture. And I fail to understand what the difference would be if instead of beers, those people were smoking joints. Aside from, and I will grant, booze there's no secondhand booze. Unless a guy pukes on your shoes. That's secondhand booze, right? But, there's not booze smoke floating around that your kids might inhale, you might inhale. So I'll understand that, and I will accede to that difference. But you know what else they've got at the Waterfront Blues Fest? Smoking areas. Places where the tobacco smokers, so they won't be smoking their tobacco amongst all the families that have their little picnic thing going on. There's a place where they can go and walk to the side and actually smoke a cigarette or cigar or e-cigarette. All I ask for marijuana and its consumers is the same consideration as alcohol drinkers and cigarette smokers get. I think the vast majority of us pot smokers at some sort of festival event like that, we'd be fine with going to the designated smoking area. That would be fine. I understand the concerns of adults and parents of children that don't want to inhale pot smoke, even secondhand smoke. I understand that they get concerned. They go to a concert and they can't help but smell smoke and it kind of bugs them. I understand that concern. And I think pot smokers are willing to make those concessions. But this idea that they have, this cultural fear that makes it so that not only can there not be open pot smoking and we can't dare see someone smoking a joint or holding the plant, but to extend that to the point where we can't even have boxer shorts with pot leaves on them for sale in an airport. It just smacks of hypocrisy when I can buy shot glasses in an airport. Right? I'm not talking about a beer t-shirt. I'm talking about alcohol paraphernalia. It'd be just the same as buying a glass pipe in an airport. And yet nobody ever makes the comparison. Nobody ever holds alcohol to the standard of being a drug. And I wonder if some of these people who have such a prohibitionist bent, that maybe their point is, look how awful it is with alcohol, and it's going to get to be that awful with marijuana. I would counter that by saying, if the alcohol has gotten to be so bad, why have you given up on fixing that? If you allow alcohol to continue to be treated so openly, you provide the motivation and incentive for marijuana to shoot for that. If you actually work to bring public acceptance of alcohol down a bit, marijuana couldn't want to be higher than that level. But they're afraid of taking on the big alcohol lobbies and the big money that's involved in alcohol and the cultural acceptance of alcohol, because they find it easier to pick on the smaller group, the less well-funded group, the group without the lobbyists. And the good news in that respect is that is changing. ArcView Group says we are going to be and are the biggest growth industry in this country. And that's what Kevin Sabet fears, is that the will of the people, like the 71% in Portland or the 56% in Oregon or the 51% nationwide, might actually get to be heard in the halls of government. Because we know you don't get a play without the money these days. We'll talk some more about this in Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. That's coming up next. We'll also take your calls at 971-533-7111 if you got some comments on the subject. But that's it for Hour 1. Thanks for joining us. For everyone here at 420 Radio, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant